Hi, Laura.
Welcome, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, lots of people pouring in. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Lots of people arriving. Good morning and welcome, everyone.
Good to see you all. Welcome. We'll allow a minute or two for people to arrive so we can see everyone here before we get going. I imagine people are just finding where the join button is, so we can give it a moment longer.
And please do feel free to write in the chat. Just say hello, where you're from, where you're joining from. It'd be lovely just to see lots of people's names popping up and all the places we're joining from in the chat box.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. Great to see your faces and your names, if not on video. We're on meeting mode, which means we can see all the names and faces of the people who are joining. So as you join, we welcome you to, maybe you like to, if you're on camera, you can wave. If you're not on camera, you can do a thumbs up emoji or a wave or a, I can see Luca in Italy doing a cool sign there. So hi Ekin, hi Kingmin, hi Tony. Great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining today. We're just going to have a few more moments to allow people to find their way into this room from the event platform, and then we'll get going. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. We'll just give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Kate is writing in the chat, so we invite you to write as well. Feel free to share where you're calling from, how you are. I see the number of people steadily moving up, so people are finding their way into the room. Now this session was intended to be in Brazilian to Portuguese and BSL, so we've had a bit of a delay in those interpreters joining the call. So we ask for your patience whilst we try and get those set up, and we'll update you throughout the session if those become available. Andre in Honolulu. Who else is joining today? Madeline in Barcelona, Anne in Oxford. Great. Fantastic. Great. I think we'll get started now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Global Doughnut Days 2024. It is wonderful to see all your faces. I think this mode of meeting is my favorite. We have lots of webinars today, but this is one of the moments where we actually get to see, oh yeah, okay. Now you just get to see me, but a moment ago I could see everyone. So this is a day long in the planning, and indeed the idea of even coming together on one day, we started in 2022 in Amsterdam when they had the Amsterdam Doughnut Day, and it was such an amazing day of energy and all the people working on doughnut economics in the city coming together. That really inspired people around the world to say, what if we did this on the same day in different cities around the world? And on the 13th of November 2023, we had our very first Global Doughnut Day. And on that day, we had online sessions and lots of in-person events around the world. And it was huge amounts of energy and excitement. Building on that, we've had lots of lessons from that process. And we now have Global Doughnut Days 2024, which is a day today online where we can connect with each other, and 3 days of local events. And actually there are a few other days that people are organizing as well. The theme of Global Doughnut Days 2024 is local action, global connection. And today is all about that global connection. It's all about seeing the other people doing this work and recognizing we can form this global community and support each other to create solidarity where we are individually in our places. We might sometimes get stuck and feel alone, but actually when we see all of us together as a global community, we recognize that we can learn from each other and support each other in this work. Global Doughnut Days is both co-designed and co-created by people across the Deal community. So what does that mean? It means that we go through a process to understand what is it we're looking to create, what's our aim and our intentions of this event, and how we create it. You know, what are the ways in which we can support organizers with resources? And this year we co-designed an event fund, co-designed with the community and then delivered to 23 different places that are organizing local events over the next few days. The date, the format, the theme, as I mentioned, the resources and funding, all these things are co-designed. And then the day is co-created by all of you coming and joining, the people putting on the sessions, the people putting on the local events. So it is ours all to enjoy and create together. We have 26 sessions online today, and over the next few days, we probably got over 70 local events. And after we hear from Kate shortly, I'll be inviting a few people who are running these local events to tell you in their own words what they're going to be doing. So, as I mentioned, Kate is going to, in a moment, offer a presentation, and we were going to hear from Carlota as well, but unfortunately she's unwell today and is unable to join us. So after that, we're going to then hand over to hear from lots of people around the world. But now, if I could invite Kate to join me on the screen. And hello, Kate, how are you?
Hi. I'm blown away actually by I'm putting little love hearts next to everybody in the chat box, because I'm just a bit blown away by Honolulu and Spain and Paris and Kenya and Melbourne, and just it's really good to be in this company right now. So I'm very moved, actually. That's how I am.
Wonderful. And we're going to hear from you today. What are you going to share?
So I'm going to be talking about how the amazing work that's been happening over the last 5 years, of how people have been getting started, and also just reflecting on how we can feel if we feel like we're getting stuck. So shall I take it away?
I will leave the floor to you and join you
Rob.
again after towards the end.
Thanks, Rob. And I just want to say I'm really sorry Carlota's not here today because of health issues, that she's not able to be with me today. But this is teamwork, and it feels slightly strange to be here on my own. So I'm so glad so many of the Deal team members are in this call, but also this whole community. This is teamwork. So I'm just reflecting back to all of us, what we've all been making happen these past years. Let me share this screen and tell a story about 5 years of Doughnut Economics in action. But I have to go back a little bit more than 5 years, right? Because the Doughnut was first published 12 years ago in a little Oxfam discussion paper, just a little idea, just pop it out in the world. And it had way more traction than I or any of us imagined. So then I turned it into a book, Doughnut Economics, 7 ways to think, not just the donut as a goal, but ways of thinking. That came out in 2017. That had way more traction than I personally remotely imagined. The really thrilling thing was what people started doing. People just started playing with it, turning it into glasses or trying to imagine their city in it, or students teaching it to each other, turning it into games, turning it into a festival, turning it into a tabletop. I was completely blown away by cities and communities and teachers just putting it into practice. So when I met Carlota, we decided this was calling for an organization, and we asked ourselves, how can we help these incredible pioneers turn these concepts that are just ideas on the page into transformative action. They're starting to do it. What would it mean if we actually helped connect these folks? What could then become possible? And that's why we co-founded Doughnut Economics Action Lab. We've organized ourselves around 6 themes of practice, and these are the themes that just are coming again and again from practitioners, where we're seeing the most energy. So we responded to that by creating it as a theme. And what I want to do now is just share some of the highlights that this community has been making happen over the past 5 years. So let's start with city and regional municipal government. It's been happening all over the world. Governments and local governments were one of the first to say, can our city or town or district live in the donut? What would that mean? So we created tools and have been thrilled to be collaborating with local policymakers all over the world. You can see this map of many of the places that are using it. Over 90 local governments have engaged somehow with the concepts of doughnut economics, and more than 50 of them have actually publicly embedded them in their policies, their strategies, their processes, creating tools together. And you can see some photos from that work, their reports from Ipoh in Malaysia to Glasgow to Brussels. Incredible work around the world. We just held in the last month in October the first gathering of city level and regional government experts in Bad Nauheim in Germany, representing more than 30 places. So this was the first time we were able to bring together in person people who could then sit at a table and create and co-create. And we really saw the power of peer-to-peer inspiration in practice in this meeting. And we're also really thrilled just today to be publishing Cities and Regions, Let's Get Started, 2024 version. So our colleague Leonora, who's on this call, has put this together, learning from all these places, how they're getting started, how they're going deeper, and turning it into a tool. This is just out, full of brilliant case studies and examples. And I know that Leonora's got fantastic guests from city and municipal government in 2 sessions today. So if you want to hear more of the details on that, do join. So many of these practitioners are making time to join us all today and share their insights and learning, which we know has massive inspiration elsewhere. Let's go to the community networks, the local place-based networks that have sprung up, whether at the scale of a neighborhood or a town or a district or a state or a nation. These networks are behind Global Doughnut Days. So for all of you who have contributed to these days, thank you for the incredible organizing and work and momentum you've created. But also, we believe these networks are behind so much of the momentum that has helped popularize, familiarize the concepts of doughnut economics in practice. And there's over 60 of them that have been created over the last 5 years, doing incredible connecting work. Again, we're going to hear so much more from many examples of these today and over the coming days in place, in person. What we are thrilled by and just blown away by every time is the creativity that these community networks keep on bringing again and again. And I know Rob has been working, will be part of these sessions, helping bring these stories forward of how places can be inspired by one another's creativity, how this playfulness, this irresistibility that helps to spread the ideas of doughnut economics in so many different places. Let's think about the world of business. For us, the key message when companies come and they say, oh, we're interested in doughnut economics. Okay, we believe the critical thing is to think about the deep design of business itself. What's your purpose, your networks, governance, ownership, and finance that underpins a business and determines whether or not it can become regenerative and distributive by design. And it's been amazing seeing the community of organizations and individual practitioners that have been building up as our colleague Erinch has really started taking this work forward. So the practice and the community that's emerged, they've been holding really strong conversations as a community of practice, I think meeting monthly over the last year. Lots of learnings coming out together, and it's led to a new section of the tool that we created with the tips from practitioners who are actually running these workshops with businesses in localities all around the world. So it's a really nice example of the community sharing back, and that improves the tool that we then all can share and all learn from. There are stories of this business tool getting into practice going on the platform, and we're really thrilled to have just launched there's case studies, lots of case studies of actual companies, how their deep design helps to shape the possibility of being regenerative and distributed by design. And we know that one of the things that makes Doughnut Economics engaging to people is its positive possibility. And these companies show, here's what we can be for. Let's not just critique what's wrong with the design of companies that we've inherited from the 20th century. Here are companies that are designed in ways that actually enable them to bring about regenerative and distributive practice. So it's that positive possibility that's coming out. Again, there are sessions on business today that you can join and learn more about how this is happening. Schools and education. It was teachers who came so early when they first saw the donut and said, I'm teaching this. I'm bringing this into my classroom. I think this is what the students should learn. And the pioneers in education have been really inspiring to us right from the start. How can we work with and learn from those teachers? And we're thrilled to have launched recently a first set of tools called Hello Doughnut. You can see them there on the screen for teachers, but also students and educators of all kinds in all contexts. How can you introduce these ideas to students of any age in a way that it touches the head, the heart, the hands, and the feet? So really deeply rooted whole body and experience holistic education. And our colleague Carolina has got some fantastic guests from the 16 countries that have engaged with these tools so far, joining in a session later today. So if you want to learn about bringing these ideas into education and practice, join one of those sessions, that session later today. Research and academia and designing data for making visible 21st century metrics. Lots of places, more than 20, have actually engaged with making their own data portrait of place. You can see some examples there on the left. But also academics have been engaging with Doughnut Economics. It's been fascinating to see how much the ideas have actually been published in peer-reviewed journals. You can see the two graphs at the bottom show the number of publications each year. So in 2023, there were 70 journal articles that had Doughnut Economics or the safe and just in the title. So it was actually focused on that. Many, many more touch on it. It's becoming part of an established field of research with many students doing dissertations and academics engaging. And our colleague Andrew has been engaging with researcher activists. They held a first webinar you could see recently in October, and there's another one coming up soon. So please do check in. We're also seeing that Doughnut Economics is touching many, many different academic fields. I wrote it about Doughnut Economics because I was coming back at economics, the discipline I'd come out of. But this is interdisciplinary. It transverses disciplinary boundaries because it's touching on paradigm change in many areas. So we're really thrilled to see students in universities doing their master's, dissertations, or even PhDs using the concepts of Doughnut Economics and deepening that research and bringing it into the academic conversation. You can join a Q&A later with Andrew if you want to talk about research, academia, data use. He is our self-declared data nerd and can talk and would love to talk to you about any details on these issues. In the realm of universities, I'm really thrilled to say that today we're also launching, together with Rethinking Economics, the student movement, to call for transforming economic education in university. We're launching a big set of materials for anybody who wants to teach Doughnut Economics related issues in universities. So a series of slide decks, reading resources, and this is in the session later today. Please do join us if you want those. They'll be published on our website later this afternoon. The idea here is to put all these resources, the slides, the teaching materials in the commons so that all lecturers, professors, teachers, students can take them and use them, not just in university, but in any educational setting, so that we can help all spread these ideas and scale them at the speed we know these times demand. And then to government, local and national, or rather state and national government. We believe that the reason governments have started getting interested and international organizations is because of the grassroots mobilizing and the organizing. There's something popping up in cities, in towns, in communities. And so again, it's the work of many here that has made governments start to get interested. We've seen over 20 national and state level governments get engaged. More than 10 intergovernmental organizations have invited us to give talks about Doughnut Economics at the World Bank, at the IMF, at the WTO. at the World Economic Forum, asking us to bring these ideas into the heart of very established mainstream institutions. But we're also seeing political parties around the world also starting to pick this up. Of course, it takes longer for parties and governments to engage with these ideas, but we think that the way that communities and local governments have been advocating this makes it an adjacent possible, makes it an other alternative to turn to. And I say this on the day that we are seeing the results come out of the US election. So these are challenging times for putting forward a very different narrative about inclusion, respect, integrity of the living world. And it's all the more important that these ideas have resonance and that they are being picked up in many places. We're also seeing a sector, this isn't one of our 6 themes, but it's coming more and more, people coming out of different sectors wanting to use the donut for the built environment, or for architecture, or for highway maintenance, or in the realm of schools, or fashion, or vegan diets. Many, many different sectoral, industrial areas saying, can we use the donut in our area as a way of rethinking this? And it's been fascinating seeing what's emerging. Again, there's a session on this later today. Please do join if you want to think about how you could apply this to a particular sector you're in. We're creating a set of guidelines to help steer this well, because we know that, you know, the first examples set a very strong precedent for everything that follows. Again, that peer-to-peer inspiration. So please do join that session if you want to learn more about these really interesting cutting-edge applications of the donut at the level of sectors. And then lastly, I'll bring in and say that the concept and practice of donut economics is being amplified beyond actual practice that everyone here has been engaged in, but through media coverage, through influential voices internationally, whether through podcasts, through TikTok and YouTube influencers, through David Attenborough writing about it in his book, through Pope Francis recommending and commending donut economics. It's popped up on television programs. It's beginning in some countries and some regions to become part of a cultural understanding, of cultural meme. It's becoming popularized or becoming recognized. This is, of course, incredibly important to all of our work, because it means that there's a media recognition, a conversation, a narrative about it. And they are often turning to local examples to say, here, it's popping up everywhere. So it's really valuable, the connection between the grounded practice and the global narrative and the media that's picking up. So all of that, amazing work. And yet we can feel sometimes, are we getting stuck? Are we moving fast enough? Right. And again, today is one of those days it's hard to wake up and think, okay, and keep moving forward. But I have to say, of all places I could be right now this morning, I'm so glad to be in solidarity and in community with this group of people with a vision that we stand for and that we're bringing to reality in many, many places. But we can feel we're getting stuck, whether we're working from schools or regions or cities or universities or neighborhoods or from the world of business. We're trying to bring our world to get into the donut in the full sense. And yet things get in the way. Or there may be budget cycles that stop us, or electoral cycles, regulations or national policies that stand in the way, global financial pressures, global politics. They create barriers that mean it just feels incredibly hard to get there. Or we could face the challenge of institutional inertia, geopolitical pressures, pandemics and crises, a lack of funding, people feeling burnout. These are very real. And then the journalist calls up and says, so show me a place that's actually doing donut economics. And of course, there's no place that's perfectly there. This is a journey. It takes time. It's not directly straightforward. It can go back and forward. Show me the visible results. Sometimes the results aren't actually visible. What we've really learned in cities and towns is actually sometimes when the work is serious, it goes internal. It goes inside the council. So it's not visible. You can't show up in the city and see the results yet, but there's a pressure to show them. Sometimes people might say, how can you prove that this new economy is going to work? And why isn't this all happening faster? The onus is on you to prove how everything will work, when in fact, what we know is that the existing economy is what doesn't work. And the onus should be there to shift, to say how we're going to move away to a world that does make sense, that does work, where we do start to reorganize the economy in respect of the rights of all and the integrity of the living planet. So what do we do in the face of these challenges? They're very real, and I just want to sit with them for a moment, recognize there are days when all of us feel some of these challenges, the reality of getting stuck. Of course, there is a session in today's program, navigating through the donut, overcoming these systemic barriers. So if you're feeling the stuckness, please do join with our colleagues who are holding this session, talking about ways of talking, ways of explaining, introducing how to get around some of these barriers. On top of that, I want to add reflections from 6 thinkers and small quotes from them that really inspire me and I think can inspire all of us. And as I share these, I'm going to invite you now, please, just in the chat box, as we're going, please just write what inspires you. How do you keep yourself going if you feel like you're getting stuck? What are the tips or the strategies or the tactics that you could just share an idea in the chat box? Because we know this will inspire all of us. So please do share those as I'm just going to share through some of these inspirations from others. I'm going to start with Howard Zinn. He was a US historian focused on grassroots history. The People's History of the United States is one of his most famous books, really looking how social movements have made change happen. And he said, the leaps that man has made in social evolution came from those who acted as if what they fought for was going to happen. The suffragettes who mobilized to get the vote for women in the UK over 100 years ago, they acted as if it was obvious and inevitable that women would get the vote. Gandhi, on the Salt March, for decades, all his forms of protest, he acted as if it was inevitable that India would get home rule. That was every way he had spoke to the British establishment to overcome colonial power, as if this was going to happen. The 4 young men who walked into Woolworths in Greensboro in North Carolina in 1960, they acted as if they would be seated despite the racism and the racial segregation of the times. People who have phenomenal courage and act as if they will win. And so all of this to me inspires and invites us in our own times, in these very turbulent times. What would it mean for us, each of us in very different places today, to act as if we too will succeed in transforming the economic worldview and narrative and practice of this world? What small or large steps would we be taking? And how can we do this together? Let me turn to Shirley Chisholm. She was the first Black woman to be elected to the US Congress in the 1960s. If they don't give you a seat at the table, she said, bring a folding chair. Don't wait for permission. Show up. Make your own space. And I think that's what we see happening in this community again and again. People bringing a folding chair, or actually sometimes just creating another table. You don't always get invited to the council table, to the formal meeting. Creating something separate, doing your own analysis, writing your own newspaper, holding your own festival, holding your own local event, creating your own podcast. So using playfulness, irresistibility, so that people are drawn to this table. I think there's so much we can learn from that, not waiting for permission, but beginning and doing it in such a beautiful way that people want to be part of it, and people will then eventually actually give you a space at the table. I think there's many examples, people who are on this call today, who've started an initiative that has then been ultimately invited to that formal table because of its power. Milton Friedman, yes, I do bring Milton Friedman here. He was the founder of neoliberal economics, which is much of what we're actually battling back against today. But he won. He started in 1947, and he said, only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. And when that crisis occurs, the actions that are taken depend on the ideas that are lying around. I've thought a lot about this. Of course, not only crises produce change, other things can produce change, but crisis is definitely a moment of change. Things can change very fast in ways that we didn't anticipate before that crisis began. And so can we have our ideas not just lying around? We don't just want ideas lying around in a book. We want them up and running with proof of practice. And I believe that's what we as a community are doing in over 90 cities around the world, in communities, in businesses. Yes, these are just a tiny fraction of the cities and the businesses and the communities around the world, but they are proof of practice of a concept that makes sense, that is adapted beautifully by people to their own locality. And crises, we know, we live in the turbulent 20s of crises, of politics, of terrible conflict, of climate breakdown, of floods, of droughts. We know these are our reality, right, around us. How can we have these ideas ready so that when crises occur and people are turning to alternatives, that this becomes something that is picked up and extended? And again, that really reiterates the importance of the work, the publications, the analyses, the politicians who do speak to this, the councils that do pick this up, the community groups that lead with this, the businesses that use these ideas, teachers who are bringing it into the classroom. It builds such a strong foundation of proof, of practice, of coherence that we can then build upon. So how do you change that paradigm? I turned to Donella Meadows, one of the mothers of systems thinking. She said, how do you change paradigms? You keep pointing at the anomalies and the failures of the existing one, the old one. You speak and act loudly and with assurance from the new one. You insert people with the new paradigm in places of public visibility and power. You don't waste time with reactionaries. Rather, you work with active change agents and the vast people of the middle ground who are open-minded. I think of this every time I see somebody presenting Doughnut Economics, everybody from this community, every time any one of us stands up, shows the donut, shows the embedded economy, talks about regenerative design, talks about distributive design. Each one of us is helping to change that paradigm. And we should remember, every time you're presenting to a room of 3 or 20 or 100 people, you never quite know whose mind you might be changing. You may have had the experience that I've had sometimes. People come up and say, I read the book, or I heard a presentation 3 or 5 years ago. I changed my job. It changed my thinking. I did a different course. People's minds can be changed, and it builds a movement. And who knows what they will go on to do. So I always think of this every time I'm invited to present. Whose mind is about to be touched by these ideas? Because this is the way we begin to change paradigms. Ilya Prigozhin was a Nobel laureate in chemistry. And he said, thinking in terms of chemistry, he said, when a complex system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system to a higher order. It feels like that in these times. And these islands, this sea is actually quite a beautiful sea around these islands. But these islands, I find this a moving picture because these are small islands, but they are connected. And we can ask ourselves, how can we connect up our many small islands? Well, of course, Global Doughnut Days is an amazing opportunity exactly to connect up our many small islands. From one place, from Melbourne to Kenya, to Honolulu, to Paris. This is how we're connecting. But also, let's remember that Doughnut Economics itself could be seen as just one island of new ideas. And we are connecting to many other new ways of thinking. And it's brilliant that so many people bringing different ideas and paradigms and worldviews, from buen vivir to well-being, to Ubuntu, to Heara Waora, to Aina Aloha from Hawaii, to the gross national happiness from Bhutan. We are connecting Doughnut Economics with so many other ways of thinking about new economics thinking, well-being and thriving. So let us connect all of these islands. We often say, don't try to be the movement, join the movement. And so let's get on Global Doughnut Days also connect with the much bigger movement of which we're a part. And it's wonderful that there are so many people bringing those ideas into the conversations today and in the next few days. And let me finish with the words of Wangari Maathai. She founded the Green Belt movement, planting trees in Kenya, but also she was a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Throughout my life, she said, I have never stopped to strategize about my next steps. I often just keep walking along through whichever door opens. I've been on a journey, and this journey has never stopped. When the journey is acknowledged and sustained by those I work with, they are a source of inspiration, energy, and encouragement. They are the reasons I keep walking and will keep walking as long as my knees hold out. And it's thoughts like hers that make me think of this whole community and how when we get together, when we collaborate, like today and the next few days, it's the energy and the inspiration that we get from each other. So how can we keep on giving each other inspiration and energy and encouragement. For me, again, on a day like today, in these times where the world is extremely challenging, it's the solidarity, the encouragement, the inspiration from this community that definitely keeps me going. So I hope those quotes from amazing thinkers and amazing change makers can inspire us today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I hope there's some wonderful quotes that we could just hear, or ideas or reflections from all of you. Rob, do you want to just share a couple that might have been coming through while I was presenting that?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Kate. And building on many of the sentiments you've shared already, Patricia says, taking the simple action today, knowing every conversation makes a difference for future generations, connecting with human spirit. Then Kadsa says, talking to others who want to see this change and seeing the excitement of people and places who've gotten started. And hopefully there's lots of that today. Anne talks about appreciative thinking, just as the brilliant examples that you've just been sharing. Eva uses the metaphor of planting a seed that improves at least one thing you see in what you see is not working around you. Being brave, we're not alone. Vinishri, who we'll hear from in just a moment, will be talking about taking or creating your own seat at the table in their panel discussion, Marginalized Leadership on Climate and Economic Justice. And then the last quote I'll offer just now is offered by Tim. It's another quote. It's from Vanessa Macedo de Oliveira, who is author of the book Hospicing Modernity, who writes, in a flood situation, it is only when the water reaches people's hips that it becomes possible for them to swim.
Thanks, Rob. And on that point, I will make the little metaphor that some people said the donut should have been a life ring, right? It was the other name. So when we need to suddenly learn to swim, the donut is a possible metaphor, a possible aid we can turn to actually help us swim in these times. Thanks. I know that we're now going to hear from some voices. And again, this is about the spotlighting of the islands. Let's connect. This is what brings us encouragement. This is what brings us together, to know that we are not alone. And last thing I'll say is there are so many more of us than we realize. When we are invited to speak to the World Bank or the IMF, sometimes when they call up, I think, what do you want? And you then get on a prep call and there are people in there saying, we desperately want to bring about change in this organization, or a national government or a local government. There are people in every institution who deeply support these ideas and desperately want to bring them in. So we should always know there are more of us than may be visible to the eye. And that's what brings me strength in these couple of days. And I'm so looking forward to the contributions we're about to hear. I'll hand back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Kate. Before I invite people to come and share about their local work, I'm gonna share my screen and actually show some visuals. This is a Global Doughnut Day, so it only feels right to bring up the globe. And these are all the many islands of which change is popping up. So these are 10 case studies of local action that are happening over the next few days. And here are 10 more, and you can just see all of the different corners of the world they're happening. You can read these all in detail in the resources page on the events platform. And here are 10 more, and 6 of these we're actually going to hear from now. So starting top left, we've got in Glasgow in Scotland, we have the Doughnut Economics Network and Universal Recognition Movement collaborating to work on some events. So I'd love to invite Vinishri and Becky to join me on the screen. Vinishri, hi.
Hello, thank you for having us. I'm joined by Rebecca here. Rebecca, are you here?
I am, yeah. I don't know if I'm spotlighted. Here we go. Wonderful. Oh, we're together. That's nice. So, hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm a white woman in my late 30s with wavy blonde auburn hair. Some of you may have already met me, as I've been working with you fab folks in the global communities to develop your accessibility offer for your local GDD's festivals, enabling more people to take part, as we know that creating a just economic future will only be possible if everyone is able to create. I'm founder of the Universal Recognition Movement, and we're a global community connected by our experience of disability rather than place. We are currently researching how innovation, design and accessibility can move us closer to a fairer economy for people and the planet, especially within communities such as ours already experiencing exclusions and hardship. If you are curious and would like to support us in this effort, then we have Just the Thing coming up straight after the wonderful keynote that we've been listening to. We are hosting a creative workshop called At What Cost, which is exploring alternative value systems shaped by real life. We'll be sharing tools that help you define what we really truly value in our communities and organisations, establishing nourishing local alternatives to GDP. We will take inspiration from disability theories on value. Disabled folks live adaptive lives, navigating a world not yet designed with us in mind. We have a history of establishing meaningful value systems shaped by real world need, but not many folks know about them, so we would love to share them with you. You will leave the session inspired and starting to create your own value systems that match your community's donor economic aspirations for a safe and just society. Later, I'll also be speaking with Vinny on the Marginalised Leadership panel about money, raising awareness on how accessible and equitable investment and philanthropy can positively impact initiatives led by marginalised innovators. We also have a local network, the UR Alba Hub. Alba is the Gaelic name for Scotland, which again is led by disabled innovators, and we use accessible service design to steward policymakers and services in creating fair, just and joyful economic futures for marginalised communities in Scotland. And we work closely with the Doughnut Economics Scotland network in this effort, and my wonderful colleague Vanishri, who I will now hand you over to introduce our exciting Co-Design Scotland event.
Thanks, Rebecca. I'm Vanishri Solanki, joining you all from Scotland, and I'm an Asian Indian woman with long black hair, wearing a pink top today and glasses. Rebecca and I are organizers of Doughnut Economics Scotland Network, and I'm also a service designer and passionate about design for social impact and climate justice. And to do that, I'm mostly co-designing with underrepresented communities and vulnerable people. And being an Indian living in Glasgow, I often find myself being a voice for the global majority community in Scotland. So now leaders working with marginalized communities and coming from marginalized backgrounds have so much to contribute to the global dialogues on doughnut economics. And that's why later in the day today, as part of the online program, we have a panel discussion on marginalized leadership on climate and economic justice. All the panelists are from marginalized backgrounds, not only leading, but pioneering great work in disability justice, systemic justice, and climate justice. Panel discussion is for you if you want to support marginalized communities and better understand themes like eco-ableism, queer, disabled, and multicultural global majority perspectives. It is also for you if you're not yet working with marginalized communities and would like to understand the challenges of grassroots work and how to engage with them. Now, coming to our local network, our Doughnut Economics Scotland network is still in its nascent stage and growing every year. We're joined by designers, change makers, students and organizations working in creative, innovation, tech and climate sector. Last year, we had an amazing Global Doughnut Day celebration with the students of design innovation from Glasgow School of Arts. And this year, on 8th of November, on Friday, as part of Global Doughnut Days, we will be bringing together creatives, marginalized communities, allies, and industry experts who want to create fairer futures in Scotland. Organized and attended by disabled creatives from Universal Recognition Movement, we're really hoping to make this a magical one. We will start with speculative workshops to explore ideas that are fairer for all, people and planet, and end with a relaxing and inspiring evening, spotlighting performances and poetry by disabled artists. That is us. Thank you so much. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Vinishri, and thank you, Becky. If I were to have given a chat response about what inspires me and gives me energy, it was when I first read the plans for the Scotland Doughnut Economics Network events locally. So I'm just thrilled to see that and to hear how it ends up going. Thank you both so much. So now I'm going to pass to invite Sujai from India to share. Hi, Sujai. To share a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Hi, everyone. I'm dialing in from the eastern part of Uttar Pradesh, which is called the Purvanchal region in India. And I work as the manager at the Bioregional Center of Excellence that we're trying to set up here in Purvanchal for the Purvanchal bioregion. What we do is we are a rural enterprise incubator. So we work with small, nano, micro-sized enterprises of the region and help them grow their ventures, connect them to market opportunities, and incubate them in a 1-year process that they go through. We found the Doughnut Economics Framework to be a very great tool for us to really embed these ideas of a socially responsible and environmentally friendly business. And since we work with small businesses and micro, nano-sized businesses, it's quite easy for us to also incorporate some of the changes to some extractive or degenerative practices that they might have very early on in their phase of business growth, so that they can then keep working towards getting into the donut further as they grow, right? And we also found a lot of similarities between the bioregional movement and the bioregionalism idea in itself that has a lot of overlaps with the Doughnut Economics Framework, in the sense that the Doughnut Economics Framework is talking about the planetary boundaries. The bioregionalism approach talks about how the local carrying capacities of the region can be respected, and how production systems can be aligned with the local natural biodiversity that is present. And I also found that the aspect of community engagement, that is a strong message that I have seen in the Doughnut Economics Network, is also quite relevant to the kind of work we do here with communities. And all of our work is based on enhancing communities' understanding about such concepts on the environment and society. So that's why we chose to engage further, and I also had the opportunity to participate in a panel discussion on culture and how culture informs and shapes the work we do in communities such as the area in Purvanchal that we work. And you'll be able to watch this panel discussion later today, and I would urge all of you to dial into that session as well. And to end, I would also talk about the one-day workshop that we are hosting on the 9th as a part of the Global Doughnut Days. And this will be for the enterprises that we incubate and work with. So this will be a deep dive for them into what it means to run a business or an enterprise within the Doughnut. How are they transgressing some of the boundaries, and how they can then prioritize on certain action areas to come and live within the Doughnut. So this is a new concept for us. We are learning as we have many as we're having conversations with the enterprises and people we're engaging with. We are learning more and more about the intricacies of this framework. And with every such conversation, I think we just keep enhancing our knowledge, and I think that's going to help in the upcoming sessions. So this is the first such session we are going to start with in a rural landscape here in India, and we hope to keep doing this with the wider business community here through the Jagriti Enterprise Center. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to connect with all of you, and I'm very grateful to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujai. And your center, the Jagrati Center, looks incredible. The tree that you have outside is one of the most magnificent trees I've ever seen. What a stunning place to hold these conversations. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to now invite Kyung Min from Korea, who has already hosted a session today that was early on this morning and is calling from the Newton Library. Sorry, I've just mispronounced that. You'll be able to correct me. Kyung Min, hi. Do share what you're doing today.
Oh, yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, I'm Kyung Min Lee from Young Doughnut Economics Coalition, known as Y Doughnut, based in South Korea. First of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to the DIL team and the diverse communities and groups around the world working together to bring the inspiring concept of doughnut economics to life. When I first encountered doughnut economics, I was captivated by its approach of addressing both ecological limits and social foundations, realizing that this is the path we need to pursue. It sparked a strong desire in me to do something, anything related to doughnut economics. So I gathered like-minded individuals and formed the local doughnut groups, Y Doughnut. And we started by exploring the DIL website and learning about various projects and stories. And through this journey, I introduced the doughnut economics to my network and communities and suggesting activities for members to participate in. So as a result, like the Kate Doughnut Research Network, a group of researchers focused on doughnut-related studies, was recently established as well. And for Global Doughnut Days, the Makers Group reviewed the year-long efforts within the doughnut framework and outlined plans for the future. And our local actions aligning with this year's Global Doughnut Day theme have also expanded into global connections. We established a link-like bridge in Brisbane in Australia and will be holding an online session together soon. And all these activities have been made possible thanks to the dedication of the heads and also the founder of Newton Library, whose deep commitment to doughnut economics continue to inspire our community. And actually, it's a really exciting time as the current session overlaps with the Village Forum as part of the local Global Doughnut Day event. So if I may, I'd love to briefly introduce our community members because you can easily show them. They're right here. So the local producers cooperative Suplo Sangdan, Yongil Citizens Fund, and Mediator of Urban Rural Farmers, and Eco-Friendly Farmers Association, and Songgol Suri Recycling Center, and Activists for Zero Waste and Resource Circulation Ribbon Project, a group of senior citizens village heroes, a self-help group of autism family, Freeze Between Us, Newton Makers, me, and Yongin Climate Action, and urban gardener, Suji Supa. Yes. Oh yeah, everyone. So like in South Korea, like communities like ours are taking on diverse roles as local activists, participants, and researchers, and it's contributing uniquely to this movement. So we hope that our effort to transform our region into a redistributive and regenerative community will ultimately connect with the entire global society and environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Min. Wow, that was incredible to see everyone and hear all that energy and to see what's going on. So it looks like you're having a fantastic day, a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing that about all your work. Incredible diversity of projects that come out of your library as the hub for the community to come together.
Yes, right. Yes, it's kind of a community hub and platform.
Yeah, and also amazing to hear the connections that you're making with other places. You mentioned your session with Region Brisbane, and I saw earlier the connections with Avias in Uganda. So
yes.
Thanks so much. Okay, so we'll move on to the next connection, and I'd love to invite Joy from Nairobi to join us. Hi, Joy. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Thank you. Good to see you.
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Doing very well.
So I'm from Kenya. Yes. So can you hear me well?
We can, yes.
Okay. So we are here with Cyrus. We are actually, and with the whole team. Let me just show you. Guys, hi. So that's our team for today, basically. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Hello?
Hello. Yes, do carry on.
Yes. So as Kate said, for us, me and Cyrus here, it was a volunteer work, and we love the donut so much. And so we thought Africa is in a place where we are starting to question our economics and question what is happening right now. And so as we have engaged with one of our communities, basically it's called Temple Art. But like you said, the connection, the local connection and the local action and global connection. We have a lot of communities within our continent right now, and especially here in Nairobi. And so what we've decided to do is bring some of them together who are sharing, who are doing the work in the community. Like we know, a lot of them have limited resources, and yet they're the stewards of the community. And so what you will notice is that from our donuts, what we have realized is that they've stewarded the land for the first 30 years, a place that was a quarry, and they've basically regenerated it. And so for us today, it was to showcase and to just sit with them and hear what their future dreams are, but also to introduce the donut. Like, you know, when you come to Kenya, when you say Jumbo, we know that you're a tourist, and when you say habari yako, we know at least you have been in Kenya for a little while. And so for us, it's understanding that they have done something without understanding what it is or finding language for it. And now just giving language to a little bit of what they have done is basically just help them also to do it more and do it better. And right now, it's not just stepping into the donut, it's actually rolling with the donut for them. And so just going on with what they're doing and just adding more. And for us, it's actually just an introduction for the communities, because we have 3 communities at the moment here with us. We have Temple Art, and we have one from Laini Saba, which does synergy. It does a lot of rehabilitation and basically trying to recycle and use what is already there in their spaces. And they're from Kibera. And we have one from Kasarani. And one of the things you will notice is a lot of them have rehabilitated their lands. And yet the social, economic aspect is what is really affecting them. So it's for us to find ways together and come together as different communities and just sit and discuss how can we help and put that together so it can now, the donuts can become a little bit meaty and they can share it together. They can be able to expand the space where there is a donut. Yes.
Hi everyone. For me, I'd just like to invite all of you for you to step into the donut with us as Nairobi. And we are looking to actually empower our communities to be stewards of their ecology and also their social empowerment. So together, we welcome all of you to step into the donut. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you so much, Cyrus. And thank you for sharing your community with us and those amazing stories of regeneration. And I also saw the pictures and the posters that you've created for your local events with the most staggering body balance. There are probably about 6 to 8 people who are balancing on each other's kind of hands and, you know, all the way up to quite the most extraordinary thing.
They're acrobats. Most of them are acrobats.
And so there's something incredible about what it means to bring this idea of balance into our bodies. And as a group of acrobats to demonstrate that. And I think it's such a beautiful artistic and creative way to bring people into the conversation, because it's really about balance and the health of our communities and the health of the planet. So I think your artistic practices will be an inspiration to many people. Thank you so much for joining us today, Joy. Thank you, Cyrus. I hope you have a wonderful day. Okay, moving from one inspiring place to the next, I would now love to invite Ekin to join us from Turkey. Ekin, are you there? Hi.
Hello, Rob. Thanks
Hi.
for everything. Hello, everyone. It feels so great to be here. Hopeful. I have limited time, so I can talk fast. Sorry for that. Firstly, it's incredibly exciting to be here on behalf of Doughnut Turkey community because for the past 6 years, I have been sharing the vision of Doughnut Economics in everywhere. Companies, local governments, farmers, children, students, some managers, public institutions, and more have been part of this journey. And 2 years ago, the story evolved into the Doughnut Turkey community, and it was a personal advocacy or personal movement, but last 2 years, we are a big community, and I'm proud of this. And I'm also proud of to announce that we are now working on building a Doughnut Turkey community with several local governments and impact-focused organizations joining forces, for example, Impact Hubs networks or Origin or some youth or marginalized groups networks and very diverse groups. And we have organized more than 60 workshops and meetings so far, and dear Ain Sahan even participated in some of them, and it was a really, really great. And easily we choose Doughnut because it's mean really justice. And we are all facing tough times worldwide, navigating through significant crises. And especially life is not easy in Turkey these days. Either we are facing social, political, economic, and especially democratic challenges. But yeah, globally crises are intensifying, and we recognize the economic system aren't, I think, poorly designed. They actually function exactly as intended. The issue is that these systems are built to achieve harmful outcomes, for example, just growth, leading to devastating consequences, I think. And in especially Turkey and all around the world, we hear the echoes of capitalism's collapse. And those who created this mess are now spinning stories like shareholder capitalism, green growth, and this kind of thing to protect themselves. This is exactly why we chose a Doughnut, because of to create a new kind of story, a vision we can genuinely work toward. And we chose it especially because Doughnut gives us a circle to unite around, while we can build a new world, new area, new approach. And it's very important for us. It's really important for Turkey. This year, we're bringing Global Doughnut Days to life in 3 big cities, Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir in next 3 days. And I'm really excited. We have tailored GDD's contents to local dynamics of each city, collaborating closely with local partners, municipalities, local governments, and key partners in creating a new urban economy, very important for the Turkey, because our urbanism is very dangerous situation. In totally over 300 people will gather with us in next 3 days, and it's very excited. And generally, what makes us most proud of the authentic portrait of diversity, because a lot of private sector leaders, public officials, local governments representatives, advocates, social entrepreneurs, investors. Yeah, it's really exciting. A lot of investors, academics, students, marginalized groups, NGOs, and many more will bring together. And we are a broad community discussing topics like new finance ways, democratic finance, community, democracy, fair transition, culture, art, creative industries, especially transformation of business and transformation of the public sector. In the other hand, discrimination, inclusivity, diversity, and alongside powerful local voices, and even figures like former Portugal Minister of Culture will join us. It's very diverse community. We are a very diverse community. And I think in the past 6 years and these days, the biggest lessons we learned is not to believe in impossible. We believe in the Doughnut. And 6 years ago, when I started speaking about Doughnut economics, everyone just laughed. Doughnut, Turkish cement, why Doughnut? And it's just laughed. But today, everyone is asking how it could actually work. It's really big transformation for Turkey. And 6 years ago, I believed in Kate's story, the story of the donut. Then I met dear Erin Sahan, Rob, Amy, and our journey transformed into something completely different. Thank you for everything, for everyone in DL team. And this movement in Turkey, a new economy movement is growing. Times are changing and tough everything may be getting harder, but hope is growing too, and it's grateful really. And maybe it's hardest part is the creating radical macro transformation, and of course bringing everyone to the table. It's really hard for Turkey relationship, but I believe with global networks we can solve these issues together. And finally, today we need a new world, new economy. We really believe this. We need a new economy, and we are working on this a large community in Turkey. We believe in transformation, and we have picked up of colorful pens. It's not colorful, but it's iPad pens. But we picked up pens to design a new economy, and invite you to join us in Turkey because we are excited and we need to more learning and more experiencing. And thank you for everything. Thank you for these days. Thank you for this moment. I'm really feel hopeful. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Ekin. I remember our very first email exchange, and to see the journey you've been on is incredible. You're in 3 cities, the community is growing, the conversations you're having go so deep. So thank you for your work. Thank you for sharing today. And I really wish you all the best for your next 3 days of local events. Thank you. So we're moving to the very last local spotlight today, which is Alison in Melbourne, Australia. Alison, are you there? Hi.
I am, yes.
How are you? And thanks so much. Do you want to share a little bit about your work you're doing in Melbourne?
Yes, fantastic. Thanks so much, Robin. It's great to be joining everyone this evening. It's quite late here, so we don't have the whole team assembled, but I just want to say thanks to Nicole from our team for joining me online tonight. And I'll just acknowledge that I'm calling in from Jajawarong country in central Victoria in Australia, just outside of Melbourne. But we in Greater Melbourne started exploring the donut at a time when we were facing a combination of social and ecological crises in 2020. We had just come out of a summer of terrible bushfires and had been feeling the climate emergency here when COVID hit and everyone was sent into lockdown. So we had this combination of things that was swirling around and really demanding a new vision for the city. And that's when we started to explore Doughnut Economics. And I think that's what really appealed to us about the framework, was that it was so holistic and could capture the interrelated nature of all of the things that we were experiencing in real time. So we didn't have to really explain why we needed to be looking at something different, because it was so obvious as we were all sitting on our own like this at home. But what it allowed us to do was bring together a community, a lot of individuals, but also organizations, to really say, how could we use the donut to create a new future vision for Greater Melbourne? And so we created the Melbourne Donut, which was really playful and fun, and added some elements that were really specific to our place. And I think some of those have popped up in other places as well, which has always been really fun for us to see, as we enjoy learning from how other cities are approaching this work as well. So the donut has continued to define the goal for Regen Melbourne, as we then established an organization to create pathways towards that safe and just future. We always talk about that as the goal. It really is one of the things that's not changed in our work over the last 4 years. We have a series of what we call wildly ambitious projects, or Earth shots, that can help us move to a more regenerative future as a city. So last year on Global Doughnut Day, we launched our City Portrait digital platform, which was our opportunity to put a lot of data to the donut and really start to measure how our city's performing. And we've been continuing to work on the City Portrait this year, starting to think about additional content to be developing, new stories, new data, really looking at our local ecological health and our global social impacts. But also we've been looking at how we can put the city portrait into practice and what this starts to look like when we think about decision making. So we've been doing that in a few different ways. One of these has been starting to put together policy analysis and submissions that are driven by the city portrait and drawing on what we've learned, and really exploring how the donut could be an adjacent or potentially better framing for policy decision making at a state and national level here, in relation to some current policy decision making going on. And we recently just released what we're calling the widget, which is like a decision-making tool or a way to play with the donut in a really qualitative way to assess how it might be impacting or creating impact positively or negatively in relation to policies or strategies that organizations might be putting together. But just another way to kind of play with the donut. Nick's just put that in the chat. Thanks, Nick. And the other thing I wanted to frame is just what we're exploring through Global Doughnut Days this year, which is a collaboration with a team that's put together a local Indigenous donut. And we're super excited to be looking at how we can be drawing together the knowledge of the donut we've been working with for a while with what's a newer donut, but older knowledge in our place and how we can really ground that. So when we think about what we've been learning, there's been a lot that we've really learned over time. And I'd say there's a bit of insight and a bit of tension in all of this. And a lot of it's reflected in what we've heard from others as well. I think we've really found that change requires us to be patient and even recognizing that we've put out a big alternative goal for our city, and that's massive. And so recognizing that it will take time for that to be absorbed is important. So we're still just raising awareness about what the city portrait is telling us and speaking about that as much as possible. We've also realized as we start to do some of the policy work that the holistic nature of the donut doesn't line up with really incremental and individual policies. And so how we reconcile that can feel challenging at times, but I think that's the opportunity as well. And I think in relation to that, we've worked pretty hard to measure outcomes on our city portrait, but that's not always what's measured in policy or is informing decision-making at a local level. So we're starting to do some work and have been in conversation with Andrew and the deal team around how we consider different forms of indicators and measurement that we can bring into this to think about how we're really effective in informing decision-making. And I think the last thing I just wanted to name, which again, Kate and others have identified, is that, the donut is one of many models that we have swirling around here. We talk a lot about well-being economics, gross national happiness, other models. And I think we've been really looking at how we can collaborate with all of these partners who are working in similar spaces because there's so much work to be done. The more we can be bringing these models together in cohesive ways, the better. So that's, I think, really where we're up to. It's been a lot of momentum, a lot of reflection this year, and we're looking forward to another full year of activity and development with the donut next year. So thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Alison, for that whistle stop explanation of the things that you've been doing and then what you'll be also doing over Global Doughnut Days this year. So incredible work, very, very inspiring. So yeah, thank you for joining us, and thank you all of the live local spotlights. Now, if you would like to record your own local spotlight, you can do that if you head to the videos page of the platform, and you can share your own local story, and we'll publish that on the platform as well. So this is an invitation to everyone here on the call to also have your local action shared in your own words. We have just 2 minutes left, and if I could just invite Kate back to for a final few words before we close. Kate, would you like to share anything that's coming up for you, having heard from in the words of members of the deal community, what they're doing with Doughnut Economics?
For me, this was just a brilliant start to, well, it's not the start because Global Doughnut Day began in the early hours, but just fantastic to hear that array of experiences, insights, and events that are coming up today. I'm basically camping out in my study all day. I've got a little picnic lined up, and I'm just going to be joining as many of these sessions as possible. Really loving the people's reflections on the barriers, what Alison was just sharing about how it takes time and how we need to connect, the value of connecting with the much bigger movement of which we're a part, that bridging concepts, bridging adjacent possible worlds, and how can the donut be in service to that in different directions. So thank you to all of you. I feel so inspired by seeing the little live streams from all of these locations. This is the work, and we're doing it, and thank you to everybody who's made this day possible. And I want to say a special thanks to you, Rob, and all the team that you've been working with, because this is big teamwork. Everybody on Global Doughnut Day team, we know there's many of you who've helped organize this. This is what enables us all to connect now, our little islands, and know that we as one island and many. So this is about connection, local action, global connection. I'm really looking forward to all these sessions today.
Thank you, Kate. And underneath that, Global Connection is making the global community of grassroots organizing visible. And in the sentiment of that, should we unspotlight me and Kate, make everyone visible, but as we close? And as that happens, I invite everyone to, I think we're still spotlighted, Kate. So I'll see if I can.
We want to see everybody.
Remove my spotlight and we'll see everyone.
Yay.
So I would love just to see you wave as we leave the call. So we're all visible here. Thanks so much for joining today. And I hope you enjoy this online day of Global Doughnut Days.